Hey there, guys. As I said, I have a meeting today, so I am not with you. I'm across the hall in the book closet. So if you really need something, you can come and get me. Yesterday in class, I passed out your packets for our first task, our first session of the moot court, looking at the First Amendment, right? Half of you got assigned free speech cases. Half of you were assigned free religion cases. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about how moot court is going to work. We're actually doing like a mini moot court because we're going to do 2 hearings within one class period. And again, they are called hearings because they are appeals court with appellate jurisdiction. They were reviewing the decision of a lower court based on a constitutional principle and making a ruling about that, which is different than what a district court does with a mock trial. In mock trial, it is actually a trial with witnesses and questioning and opening and closing statements. In a circuit court, each side gets to have oral arguments, and then they get to be asked questions by the judges. So there's no attorneys in that case. Typically, this would take a really long time. The actual real appeals court gives each side 30 minutes. I'm giving each side 8. So with that, let's look really, really quickly at this slide that I have for you. I'm hoping my head does not get in the way. All right, so when we look at moot court, again, it is a simulation of a court of appeals hearing. And again, appeals court has appellate jurisdiction, which means a review of a lower court's decision. The trial already took place at the lowest level. Okay, for this round 1 and then round 2, we are going to simulate the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which has a panel of 3 judges. Okay, again, you already know we've got 4 cases, 2 religion, 2 speech. There will be 3 judges, and then 4 attorneys total for each case. You got your packets. Okay, so before the trial starts or before the hearing happens, right, you have to do some prep work. You will have whatever time when I'm done explaining this today to do your prep work, and then you'll have an additional class tomorrow. When we get to the second round, I'm not going to give you 2 full days in class to work. You're only going to get 1 because we will have already done it one time, so you should be a little bit more familiar with the process. Okay, so just kind of please keep that in mind. So what you need to do, you need to, if you have not already done, read the entire packet about the information on the case that you were assigned to act out in moot court. You also need to make sure that you understand the required precedent cases. So on the front of your packet, right, everybody got one of these. On the front of this, it has the cases that we're doing in moot court. It's got the constitutional question or issue that's being discussed by the court. And then these are the required cases that the College Board says that you have to know. So when you are arguing your case, you need to make sure that you are referencing the previous case, the precedent that was set in one of these required cases. Okay. Within your packet, it's going to ask you some questions about some basic background information. You're going to fill that in first. Okay. After you fill out your basic background information, right, judges are going to have to write some questions. After the trial, you're going to have to write some oral arguments. Let me get back to pretrial. So you're going to have to write your questions for oral arguments. Attorneys are going to have to write a brief and an oral argument statement. These need to happen before we have the trial, which is going to be next Monday and Tuesday, but we'll get to that momentarily. Okay, so judges, prep your oral arguments, prep materials, the packet's got all the questions, right? Have those done. Attorneys, you're going to do the prep work, you're going to write your briefs, your oral arguments. Media outlets, you're going to fill out the initial packet, and then you are going to talk to some people, and you are going to write an initial article about what the case is going to hear and what that might possibly mean. What do we think we're going to hear out of the court? Okay. Then Monday and Tuesday, we're going to have the actual trials themselves. On Monday, we are going to look at religion. So our Bremerton case and our Masterpiece Cake Shop case are going to go that day. Okay. And then on Tuesday, our free speech groups are going to go. So our Texas and our Mahanoy. However, everybody's work is due at the beginning of class on Monday. Please keep that very, very clear. Also pay attention in your packet. Attorneys, you're going to need to make sure that you send your brief material or share the document with the brief to the judges so that they can read it and have access to it when they are drafting their questions for you. So as soon as you finish that brief, please send it to the judges. The more time they have with it, the less questions they have to ask you, and the more time you might actually get to just talk to them and argue your point. Okay, so prep work, rest of class today, all of class tomorrow. Again, I know I'm not with you. Send me an email, save your questions for tomorrow. I promise I will answer them for you. Okay, when we have our trial procedures, I'm going to call the case. I'll introduce the judges. We'll come in. The head case, I guess I'll introduce the hearing itself. Your head judge is going to sit in the middle. I'm going to show you a video in a minute, and they're going to say, oh, today we're going to hear the case of yada, 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 yada. Petitioner, would you like to have, your oral arguments? Go for it. Each side gets a total of 8 minutes for oral arguments. However, I'm only promising you 1 minute of uninterrupted time in the beginning and 1 minute of interrupted time at the end. The 6 minutes in the middle, the attorneys at the 1 minute mark, the judges are allowed to start firing questions with you. So if you want to ensure the judges hear an argument that you have, you should put it in the brief because they have to read the brief. When you have oral arguments, really it's about the judges asking you questions and not about you proving your point. Be prepared to just discuss and prove your point if you want to, but know that the judges can interrupt you as many times as they want to. And judges, be prepared to interrupt, right? Ask those questions. You don't have to wait for them to talk. Get in there and say, okay, what we really want to know is this, right? And again, they should be questions based on the constitutionality and the core question that was on the packet that I gave you, right? So each side is going to get their 8 minutes. Minute at the beginning, uninterrupted, minute at the end, uninterrupted. 6 minutes in the middle, that can be all kinds of full of questions. Okay, so we're going to go through this process on Monday and Tuesday to get through all 4 cases, right? However, after each trial is over, at some point, the judges need to come together. They need to discuss and they need to vote. Majority wins, right? So if you don't get a 3-0, if you get a 2-1, the 2 wins, okay? You're going to discuss the decision. All of you are going to have to write up your final opinion in your packet, right? You have to do your own. However, the head judge will announce the final verdict or the final result and the reasoning behind that. If the head judge is not part of the majority, they can delegate the task to a different judge to announce that actually agreed with the decision. Okay, so I hope that kind of outlines what it is that you're going to do.